As I already mentioned, I am Edgardo Gracing from the International Labour Organization, Department of Statistics in headquarters in Geneva. The idea is to briefly tell you about an assistance we are providing in the framework of the LMIS projects. In the law, we have an assistance to constituents consisting on helping a member country, an agency in the member country, to implement labor market information system. Namibia was one of our constituents making use of this assistance back in 2018-19. And since then, we have had several other experiences. And recently, we are adding this new component or new activity to our project. Briefly, to explain you what a labor market information system is for the ILO. It is a project consisting on 4 components. Component number 1 is the data, of course. We cannot have an LMIS without data, and in particular, we're talking about labor statistical data, which can come from different sources, typically household surveys, also establishment survey, and of course, administrative records. Component number 2 is a data warehouse to store and disseminate the indicators produced with this data in a central repository that can be accessed by different users, different stakeholders of the system, and also by analysts and decision makers. And this put me in the 3rd component of the LMIS, that is the analytical capacity and tools for making analysis of this information. And last, but for sure not least, is the component number 4 that consists of all the necessary and mandatory institutional arrangement and networks that has to be put in place in order to successfully implement this type of systems. Today, we will be basically referring to component number 1, because what we will be talking about is how to make better use of administrative records in the country to provide data for component number 1. So, as I mentioned, basically the information we are talking about is labor statistics, and there are many dimensions, many perspectives of seeing the labor statistics, and many variables to be collected. You can here have a quite big list. And of course, that there are some of them that are typically available and necessary to be collected through surveys, because it's almost impossible to have information about informality or information to properly define the unemployment of a person if we don't do an interview, because of the way that these concepts are defined by the international community. But there are many other variables that can easily be collected from administrative records. I am highlighting there some of them, and I would say that there are even some like information about unemployment benefits or collective bargaining strikes. This information is probably only available in administrative registers. So what we are proposing now to our constituents implementing LMIS is the possibility of providing technical assistance about how to better exploit the administrative records. This assistance is divided in 4 phases that are organized in 2 stages. Stage 1 comprises phase 1, and stage 2, in fact, is as an iteration throughout phases 2, 3, and 4 to be applied to each administrative register that has been selected in phase one. So in phase one, we make the diagnosis, the assessment of the different administrative records and a prioritization of them based on the feasibility of using this administrative record, especially the relevance for the purposes of the labor market information system. Some characteristics of the way that we are proposing this implementation that I want to highlight is, first of all, this is a pandemic-ready approach because we have split these phases into two sets of activities, some of them that we call design and coordination, and others that we call implementation activities. And the reason for that was mainly because we realized that for the proper assessment of administrative records, it's very important the closeness of the person doing the work to the data sources. And with the situation today, it's not always possible that maybe a senior consultant or any of us in the staff can travel to the country. So we decided to have a set of coordination and design and coordination activities to be carried out by a more senior consultant on one side, and also to have a set of implementation activities to be carried out by somebody in place that could be a local consultant, somebody that can have access to or can be also part of the staff or of the owner of the administrative records. So basically, and to go fast, because I don't want Karen to start making signals, what we do in this phase one is a set of activities lending to provide tools for the implementation, for the implementer, on how to collect information about the administrative records that could then be used. So this is systematized information about the administrative record that can then be used by the coordinator to make a diagnosis of each of these administrative registers and define a prioritization of the list of administrative registers that are candidates to be improved, in order to be able to prioritize those that are more relevant for the purposes of the LMIS. In stage two, we start applying for each prioritized administrative register the three phases 2.1, 2.2, and 2.3 in a way that we can start having results quickly. And the criteria of prioritization is to create work packages that are independent each other, can be run even in parallel if you have the results to do so. But the most important thing is to generate results quickly based on the most relevant or the most feasible. I mean, I like always to take into account the long-hanging fruits and try to get quickly results when possible. And then the phase 2.2, you will see now, we'll develop the actual tools for the implementation of the improvement. So phase 2.1 is basically to elaborate the plan specifically now for the first of the work packages, or for each of the work packages. And the implementer will have to discuss this plan with the owner in order to receive some feedback and systematize the systems. Phase 2.2, and here there is another characteristic that I want to highlight. We have decided to have an holistic approach in this assistance because we know that in terms of improving administrative registers, there are sometimes a lot of possibilities from the technical point of view, but then it's not always easy to implement this at least not in a fast way, in a quick implementation. So we have decided that for each work package, there will be two plans of two improvement plans to be defined, what we call the plan A and plan B. So the plan A is what is the best of the options that will develop a harmonization of concepts and classifiers that is being used in the administrative record and suggest all the necessary changes from the basis of how the administrative record is being collected and used. But in case that this cannot be quickly implemented, we also propose a plan B that consists in try to use the administrative record as is for statistical purposes, if possible, and as much as possible. So basically, the idea is that in this case, instead of proposing to make changes directly on the administrative record, the idea is to propose correlation tables or other tools that could allow to use the administrative record as they are. The last phase for each of these working packages is to implement at least a pilot project, a proof of concept, because the idea is that we want then the agency and the owner to work alone. Our role there is to provide assistance on how to do the things, but not to implement the things. So nevertheless, the idea is to start with a pilot project for the implementation of the improvements, either in the plan A or plan B, whichever has been accepted by the owner of the administrative registers. That's all. I hope that I did not took too much, and thank you for the opportunity.